In a quiet corner of Middle-earth, tucked away among rolling hills and green pastures, there lived a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. Hobbits were unadventurous folk, content with simple pleasures like tea, pipe smoking, and well-stocked pantries. Bilbo was no exception. He prided himself on a life of comfort and predictability. But fate, as it often does, had other plans for Bilbo. One fine morning, a wizard knocked on his door, and with that single knock, the boundaries of Bilbo's safe little world began to crumble. This is the story of how an ordinary hobbit became an unlikely hero, braving trolls, goblins, dragons, and a journey that would change not just his life, but the fate of Middle-earth itself. What follows is an immersive retelling of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, a tale of courage, friendship, and the discovery of one's true potential. Let us begin. In the peaceful land of the Shire, where the air was fresh, the grass was green, and life moved at a leisurely pace, there lived a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo's life was one of perfect routine, centered around good food, leisurely walks, and long afternoons of reading and smoking his pipe in the comfort of his hobbit hole. His home was not just any hole but a fine one, a cozy dwelling with a green, circular door bearing a shiny brass knob in its center. It was, as Tolkien described, the epitome of hobbit comfort. Bilbo had no interest in adventures. Adventures, as he saw them, were messy, uncomfortable things that interrupted the predictable comforts of home. And so, it was with great annoyance and confusion that Bilbo found himself hosting a peculiar visitor one fine morning, Gandalf the Grey. Gandalf was a wizard known for his wisdom and, much to Bilbo's dismay, his knack for stirring up trouble. With his long staff, grey cloak, and mischievous twinkle, Gandalf declared that he had chosen Bilbo for an adventure. Before Bilbo could protest, Gandalf marked his door with a mysterious sign, and the next evening, 13 dwarves arrived one by one at his doorstep. The leader of the group was Thorin Oakenshield, a proud dwarf with a noble air. Thorin carried with him the weight of his family's legacy. He and his companions Balin, Dwalin, Fili, Kili, Dori, Nori, Ori, Oin, Gloin, Bifur, Bofur, and Bombur had set out on a quest to reclaim their ancestral home, the Lonely Mountain, from the dragon Smaug. Smaug had stolen their treasure and driven the dwarves into exile. Thorin explained their plan over a feast in Bilbo's dining room, a feast that left Bilbo's pantry nearly empty. Though the hobbit was resistant at first, Gandalf vouched for him, declaring Bilbo the perfect burglar for the job. The dwarves were skeptical of the timid hobbit, but Gandalf assured them that Bilbo's courage would reveal itself in time. Despite his reluctance, something stirred in Bilbo, a spark of curiosity, perhaps, or a whisper of courage he didn't yet know he possessed. When morning came, he found himself rushing out the door without so much as a handkerchief, beginning an adventure that would forever change his life. The journey began with a sense of wonder, as the group traversed the rolling hills and open lands beyond the Shire. But it wasn't long before danger reared its head. In the wilderness, the company encountered 3 large, dim-witted trolls, Tom, Bert, and William. These trolls captured the group, intent on making a meal of them. Bilbo, in an effort to prove his worth as a burglar, attempted to pickpocket one of the trolls but was quickly caught. The dwarves rushed to his aid, only to be captured themselves. All seemed lost until Gandalf returned just in time, using his cleverness to mimic the trolls' voices and trick them into arguing until dawn. When the first rays of sunlight touched the trolls, they turned to stone, and the company was saved. Inside the trolls' cave, they found weapons and treasures. Among the spoils, Gandalf took a magical sword, Glamdring, while Thorin claimed Orcrist, the goblin cleaver. Bilbo took a small dagger that he would later name Sting, though he had little use for it at the time. Their journey continued, and the group sought refuge in Rivendell, a haven of the elves. Here, they met Elrond, the wise and ancient lord of the valley. Elrond examined Thorin's map and discovered hidden moon runes that revealed the key to entering the Lonely Mountain, a secret door that could only be opened on Durin's Day, the dwarves' new year. Refreshed and armed with new knowledge, the company pressed on into the misty mountains. Their journey took a dark turn as a violent storm forced them to seek shelter in a cave. Unbeknownst to them, the cave was a goblin stronghold. Captured by goblins, the company was brought before the Goblin King, who accused them of trespassing. Gandalf once again came to their rescue, wielding Glamdring to slay the goblins and free the dwarves. Amid the chaos, Bilbo became separated from the group and found himself deep in the goblin tunnels. It was here that Bilbo encountered Gollum, a strange, emaciated creature who lived alone in the darkness. Gollum was both menacing and pitiable, speaking in hissing tones and referring to himself as we. When Gollum proposed a game of riddles to decide Bilbo's fate, the hobbit had little choice but to agree. The riddles went back and forth, with each one more challenging than the last. Though Bilbo was frightened, he managed to outwit Gollum by sheer luck. In his desperation, Bilbo asked a question that wasn't a riddle at all. "What have I got in my pocket?" Gollum, unable to answer, was bound by his own rules to let Bilbo go. Unbeknownst to Gollum, Bilbo had stumbled upon a golden ring in the dark tunnels, a ring that had the power to make its wearer invisible. Using this newfound treasure, Bilbo escaped from the goblin tunnels and rejoined his companions, who were overjoyed to see him alive. The company's journey led them into Mirkwood, a vast and dark forest filled with enchantments and danger. Without Gandalf, who had left them to attend to other matters, the group was forced to rely on their own wits. In Mirkwood, they encountered giant spiders that captured them in their webs. Bilbo, wielding Sting and using the invisibility granted by his ring, managed to free himself and the others. He fought bravely, slaying the spiders and earning the respect of the dwarves. For the first time, Bilbo began to feel like a true adventurer. Their troubles in Mirkwood were far from over. The group was soon captured by the elves of the Woodland Realm and imprisoned in the dungeons of King Thranduil. The elves, suspicious of the dwarves, demanded to know their purpose, but Thorin refused to reveal their quest. Once again, Bilbo's resourcefulness saved the day. Using his ring to move unseen, he devised a plan to escape by hiding the dwarves in barrels that were sent floating down the river. The plan was risky and uncomfortable, but it worked, and the group finally emerged from the forest. At last, the company reached Lake Town Esgaroth, a settlement of men near the Lonely Mountain. The people of Lake Town welcomed Thorin as a returning king, eager for the wealth and prosperity his quest promised to bring. With supplies and support from the townsfolk, the company pressed onto the mountain. Standing before the Lonely Mountain, the dwarves were filled with awe and dread. The desolation caused by smog was evident in the barren, lifeless landscape. Finding the secret door revealed by the moon runes, the group faced their greatest challenge yet, confronting the dragon. Bilbo, as the designated burglar, was sent alone into Smog's lair. The vast treasure hoarded by the dragon was beyond anything Bilbo could have imagined. Gold, jewels, and priceless artifacts glittered in the dim light. And there, atop the treasure, lay Smog, a monstrous and malevolent creature whose every breath radiated heat. Bilbo's courage was tested as he engaged Smog in a game of wits, carefully choosing his words to flatter the dragon while gathering information. Through their conversation, Bilbo discovered a weak spot in Smog's armor, a bare patch on his chest. Smog, enraged by the intrusion, flew off to attack Lake Town, leaving the company shaken but alive. The dragon's wrath brought devastation to the town, but Bard the bowman, a skilled archer, struck a fatal blow to Smog's vulnerable spot, killing the beast. With Smog defeated, the treasure in the Lonely Mountain became the center of conflict. Thorin, consumed by dragon sickness, refused to share the wealth with the men and elves who had aided them. Tensions escalated, and armies gathered at the mountain's gates, prepared for war. As the situation grew dire, an army of goblins and wargs descended upon the mountain, forcing the rival factions to unite. In the climactic battle of the five armies, Thorin fought valiantly but was mortally wounded. On his deathbed, Thorin made peace with Bilbo, acknowledging the hobbit's courage and wisdom. Thorin's death marked the end of the quest, but it left Bilbo disillusioned with the greed and strife that treasure could bring. With the adventure over, Bilbo declined his share of the treasure and returned to the Shire. Though he resumed his quiet life, he was forever changed. He had discovered courage, resilience, and a world beyond the comforts of home. But the story did not truly end there. In his pocket, Bilbo carried the golden ring, a small, unassuming trinket that would one day bring about an even greater adventure.